Hi, it's Alaska Granny. Food shortages, less food available, it is a catastrophe all over the world. Just look at the news. The human cost of a food shortage, 10 things people do when their food runs out. Even temporary food shortages can be risky. People end up eating lower quality foods when they're expensive. Sometimes we go to the store and we can't find any of the generic foods because those have sold out first and only the more expensive foods are left. Lots of people turn to their neighbors, friends, and family. They're looking for someone to help. An option is foraging for wild foods, but certain times of year that's not even possible. People will harvest immature crops. That means the yield is less, the food is less digestible, and the shelf life is reduced due to higher moisture content. Stocks of seeds that farming families hold for the next season may become food. If you eat your seeds, how will you grow food next year? One concern is people eating whatever is available, even if it isn't food. In Haiti, people were eating mud cookies. In some places in Africa, people would take old animal hides, roast them, and try to consume those. All over the world, people limit portion sizes at mealtime if food is in short supply, or they skip meals. We know as a country, much of the livestock has been sold off slaughtered. Many farmers can no longer count on livestock as a major source of income, which in the future will make it harder for us to find the meat that we want. Just look at the immigration problems. Families are traveling, they're breaking up their families, they're moving away. Poverty is one of the greatest reasons why people try to go to other countries. There are solutions to hunger and food insecurity, and it begins with us. We want to find the ways to provide for ourselves so that we don't run into these dire problems. We can make decisions as preppers to have the things that we need. It's very important that we understand that prepping is lifestyle insurance. We are trying to protect the lifestyle that we have, to have the future of our families be safe, secure, and provided for. And so having a stockpile of food can really help you meet those goals. There are still cheap, long-lasting foods that you can get. I'm going to share with you today the cheap, long-lasting foods that are my choices that I'm putting in my prepper pantry that are going to last the longest. First of all, most of these foods would be dry foods, and so you can get those foods and then you want to store them properly. You can't just put them on the shelf, can't just hide them under the bed. You need to store them properly so that they're going to last the longest. The more airtight you store food, in a cool, dark, dry environment, the longer it's going to last. And that's the whole point of having a prepper pantry, is we want our food to last. So you may want to store food in 5-gallon buckets. If you can get them free, do it. I haven't been able to get them free in ages, but you can still pick them up at some of the stores, the hardware stores, even at places like Walmart. You can look for 5-gallon buckets and look for tight-fitting lids. And when you get the lids, look around the rim. They need to have a little rubber gasket, and the rubber gasket helps it seal tighter. So try to find lids with the gaskets, and sometimes even if you can't find them at the store where you can find buckets, you can find lids at another store, and most of them are interchangeable. But if you can only find buckets at one store and lids with the gasket at another store, likely they're going to fit each other and that'll still work out. So don't despair if you can't find them all together. Keep looking. You can also store food in Mylar bags, and these are airtight, sealed up to last for a long, long time. I like the 1-gallon size. They have gusseted bottoms and they have a zip-lock top, so you can zip this up. It helps it to then be closed when you're ready to seal it. Now, if you have an oxygen absorber, you can add that, but if you don't, this will be okay until you can do more. It's the better that you store your food, the longer it will last. And then I like these because they're a smaller size. That's the amount of food that I might want to get out. I don't have a huge family, and so I want smaller size foods that I could use up before they would go stale. Then you can take an iron, a flat iron, and you can seal these completely across the top. You can also store your long-lasting dried food in jars. You want to make sure that your jars are clean and dry. Fill it up with your dry food, and then you can put on a lid and a ring, and they could sit in the pantry just like this. But if you have an oxygen absorber, drop that in and then put on the lid. Or if you have a food saver and a vacuum sealer, you could put the jar attachment lid on here and vacuum out the air, and it will last much longer that way. The top ways to store your cheap dry foods for the longest lasting would be with buckets, Mylar bags, or jars. Then what are my top choices? Beans, and they come in all different varieties. You can buy them in small bags, you can buy them in huge bags. It's up to you what you can afford and what you can even find at the store. The prices are going up, but they can still be found, and the varieties are becoming more limited, so keep your eye open. Whenever you go to the store, walk down the bean aisle and see if there's any that you want to add, and if there are prices that you can afford. You can find pinto beans, white beans, black beans, lima beans, butter beans, all kinds of different beans. You can also look for split peas and lentils, because those are also legumes. And they're nice because you don't have to soak them. They don't take as long to cook. You can put these in water and cook them, but it will take a while. All of these types of beans, peas, lentils can store for many years in your pantry, airtight as possible. If you have your beans and rice, you have a complete protein. You could live on those. You probably don't want to though, but you could. The next food that I like is oatmeal. I figure with beans, rice, and oatmeal, I have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. No, that's not all I want, but I could have that, and I could be able to survive. Not everyone could, but I think I could make a good go of it. So that's part of it, is having the mindset that you are willing to survive and eat these foods. Don't store foods that you never want to eat. Don't store foods that you haven't learned how to cook and prepare. That's one reason to buy things like beans in small packages. You could cook them up in your crock pot and find out ways to make them. You'll see that it's not very difficult, and you may even enjoy them. After beans, rice, and oatmeal, I like pasta. Pasta is simple to store into jars. I think it's harder to store pasta into the Mylar bags because when you put in an oxygen absorber, pasta has all those little sharp edges and they can actually poke a hole. So my preferred method is to store them in jars. I also like to get the long straight noodles because they take up far less room in the jars. You can break them in half, stick them in the jar, use your food saver, or even just put on the lid, and they're going to last forever. I have stored pasta for decades and it was always fine, but don't store it just in the cardboard box just on the shelf, because that's not going to keep it safe. Egg noodles are not the same as pasta because they have eggs in them. Foods that have high oil content or other ingredients are not going to last. And that would be also with brown rice. Brown rice has oil, so when you're storing rice, choose the white rice. The next cheap, long-lasting food that I like to store is sugar. Sugar just needs to be put in an airtight container. You don't have to do anything else to it. Just store it airtight and it'll last forever. And what's versatile about white sugar is if you want powdered sugar, you can just whir it up in the blender. I'll put a link to a video on how to turn your granulated sugar into powdered sugar. You can also turn your white sugar into brown sugar by simply adding molasses. So I'll put a link to a video on how to make brown sugar as well. So having white sugar can really be beneficial because you need less ingredients to store, and then it's very versatile. The next cheap, long-lasting food would be salt. This one is canning and pickling salt. If you're planning on doing any canning, pickling, preserving, fermenting, you want to have the proper salts. You can also store table salts, you can store Himalayan salts, kosher salts. Look over the ones that you use and store them airtight. Many people will tell you just store salt in its cardboard container, and I don't recommend that because if you live in a humid area, the humidity goes right through the cardboard into your salt and it can turn it into a block. And yeah, you could chop it all apart and grind it up, but I don't want to do that. I want to have my food ready to use. I don't want to have it become a science experiment. I also helped clean out a pantry for someone who had just stored foods for decades and never paid any attention to it, and they had pantry bugs and they were into everything, including the salt. It was disgusting. Every single thing in the pantry needed to be tossed. If you're a coffee drinker, freeze-dried instant coffee can last nearly forever. It could seem to be a priceless ingredient in an emergency situation. It's also great to take camping because you just have this little jar, it's ready to go, add some boiling water, and you have your cup of coffee if that's what you like. There are also liquids that can last nearly forever, but they're not as common as some of the dry ingredients. I like to store honey. Honey can solidify or crystallize, but all you need to do is take a pot of hot water, never boiling, and you want to place your container of honey in there and just give it time, and the heat will naturally help the honey liquefy again. I'll put a link to a video I made on how to decrystallize and get your honey liquid again. Vinegar lasts forever, and it is one of the most versatile ingredients that you can have. Not only is it good for cooking, pickling, fermenting, it's also good for cleaning. You can clean drains with it. You can clean spots out of the carpet. You can get rid of weeds with it. There's all kinds of reasons why you would want to have white vinegar, and it's still available, but the price is going up ridiculously. My suggestion is to have several gallons of white vinegar in your prepper pantry because you'll find so many uses for it, you'll be glad that you have it. All that dried food, yes, you better have water. You're going to need water for soaking beans, cooking rice, making oatmeal, mixing up all of the different things you need. Plus you need water just for drinking. You also need some water for hygiene, for cleaning up your dishes, for trying to flush a toilet if you still have the capability. But remember, if it comes to rationing, never ration water. Everybody needs to stay hydrated to stay healthy. You can only live a few days without water. You can live many days without food. You may not like it, but you can live. And so you should have at least 1 gallon of water per person in your family for as many days as possible. Have water barrels if you have room for them. Have 5-gallon containers if you can find a nook or cranny. And then also have some grab and go in case you have to leave your home. And never say I won't leave my home, because there are so many instances when you don't have a choice. If your house catches on fire, if a tornado knocks it down, if a hurricane is coming, an earthquake collapses it, yes, you would leave your home. So then you want to have some water that you could grab and go with your bug out bag, with your emergency gear. Make sure that you have a plan of that as well. Never stay in your home simply because you have things there. You can replace all of your things, but you can't replace your life. And that should be the whole point of prepping, is we want to preserve our life. We don't just want to preserve our things. There are other foods that can last a long time, but these are my favorites. So tell us in the comments below, what are your favorite foods that last a long, long time that are still pretty cheap and affordable? There are a lot of ways to prepare them, a lot of ways to store them, and it's a puzzle that you can put together yourself with the foods that you want, in the ways that you are able to store them in the space that fits your home. And so don't think of it as there's only one right answer. This is a puzzle. Each person's prepping puzzle is unique. If you enjoyed my video, I hope you'll share it with someone else you think might like it, and please subscribe to the Alaska Granny channel.